what I thought I'd do is show you my room.
Perfect.
Okay, so, and I'm gonna talk while I show you my room. So, first of all, I want to say thank you to June Wen and Grant and Ashwini and everyone who's contributed to Living Room Art. I should put it on my face. There I am. This mode of communicating is new to me, so bear with me. I'll talk while I'm showing you my art room. And my intention is to try to inspire people to go with their inborn creativity and go with whatever form it takes. Choose your interest, follow those creators that inspire you, and relax and enjoy your choice. Anyway, so here, I'll go to my room. So this is, I actually won't explain. I'll let things speak for themselves. And I want to talk about neighborhoods and how grateful I am to be in this neighborhood, especially, and how grateful I am to be part of a group called Gamma Garage, which is inspiring. We inspire one another, we encourage one another, we get together regularly, and it's just a good thing to do. And I'd like to see other neighborhoods do that. Find out who your neighbors are and find out what their interests are. Of course, you can connect online also and meet up with people of like minds. For me, I'd like to tell you about Gamma Garage, which happens in our neighborhood. I'm part of that group, and the members of the group are Sheila Chowdhury, Pat Sexsmith, and Wilma Cook. And we met many years ago and realized we had painting in common, and we decided to form this group. Sheila so generously offered her garage, which is her studio, as a gallery, and we have an annual spring show. And let me just show you a bit more of my room. These are some of my paintings. We have the show in the springtime, and we hope to continue this. We've had 15 annual shows. And now I'm just gonna kind of take you through the room and let you ask me questions. Is there anyone listening?
I'm listening.
Oh,
I'm
good.
listening too.
Good, good. Well, if you
I'm
have
just
any,
observing.
feel free.
I'm listening too, but I'm not on camera, Diane. Hi.
Oh, okay.
It's fun, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, one thing I want to say about my paintings, these paintings are of my favorite, are Beauties. And this is up the Sunshine Coast. You're looking over towards Texada. And this is on a walk to Francis Point, which is the vantage point of looking to Texada. And I think it's really fun to paint outside. It's really difficult to get to a place like this and paint with acrylic, but you can take your sketchbook and take your camera and then be sure whenever you start a painting, you have lots of references. And I've got a whole table full here, which I can't show you with my operation that easily. I guess if I went back a bit. Yeah, anyway, no, it doesn't really show it. It's important to have a space where you can do what you love. And it's really a privilege to have a space. You can make your space even a backpack, have it right ready and go outdoors, and that's your space. And all that takes is a paper and a pencil. And I would encourage anyone wanting to learn anything about art just to draw. I don't know what else to say. I'll show you the rest of my room. Oh, I forgot to close the door, so you're watching the washer and dryer. There we go. So, oh, yes, this is a sign. I guess I can use a zoom, can I? No, it's not there. Anyway, we call it the room of requirement because artists have to be so flexible. Sometimes they have to share their rooms. And this is more arbutus. Now, what have I done? Oh, I'm in a mirror. This is in Burnaby, this lower picture, and it's from Hythe Park. And I love to go up there and sketch, and I'd love to invite a group that I'm part of, which is Urban Sketchers, and to join me up there and sketch. Urban Sketchers has been a lot of fun for me because I like to be outdoors, painting and drawing. And we meet and we kind of figure on where we're gonna meet in 2 hours, and we separate or we sit beside each other, whatever. Something different. Right now we're only online, of course, but when things change, the way they were, was we would meet and we'd go off and sketch and sometimes watercolor with it and come back and show each other our work. And it's so much fun to see how other artists manage to bring their supplies and keep it light and easy and portable, and so you can show up anywhere. I'm lucky to have a window that looks out to the garden and mountains. And anyway, this is back to my original spot. And I think I'll turn it over to you, Tami, if you're ready.
I'm ready. I've got everything all ready to go.
Okay.
So I'm just going to scooch over so I can see my other screen, because I've got two setups here. So I've got me in the face, and then there's another screen that has my hands only. And I'm not sure, Diane, are you able to on your setup set up that one screen as the main window?
Oh yes, I think I am. There, is that it? Oh, David Yard, what are you doing here? This is my son who's in Australia. How did you hear about this? I can't hear you. You have to turn your mic on. Anyway, so glad you're here. Welcome.
Joanne.
Now, have I done the right thing, Tami?
I'm just gonna have a quick look and see. No, I've got your screen as the main one still.
Oh, okay. So maybe I better, what should I do? Maybe I just leave. Do it? Would I just leave? This is taking up time. Stop video. There we go. Okay, there you go. It's all yours.
And there. We'll see if that one works. I can hear myself a little bit. There. Turn down some volume. And let's see. There. How's that? Can everybody hear okay? There's my main screen. Okay, so I'm doing a demonstration on neurographic art. And neurographic art is you break it down into 2 words, it's neuro, which equals brain, graphic, which equals image. And it's an image when you're finished with it that kind of looks a little bit like the neurons in your brain. And got some examples here. So these are what I've been working on just while I listen to the news in the morning, or when I'm bored. And you can see that it's a specific style. Everything is, there's no really sharp corners. Everything's kind of rounded off. So there's a step-by-step guide that you can use, or you can just freehand it. And I'm going to do a demo for you of how to do one. And then I'm going to finish a piece of artwork that incorporates it as part of the art. So the first thing that you want to do is you're going to take a pen. Pencils work really well also. Markers, I have plans on trying it out with paint. But you're going to take and just start with a loopy line. And it doesn't matter what that line looks like. You can do more than one line. It's not supposed to look like anything in particular. It's just supposed to be a line. I'm gonna draw a couple lines. I've also got some shapes. The other thing I like to do is trace shapes around, and I can overlap those things. It's not important for anything to be perfect. Because this is the type of project that, regardless of what you do, it's all gonna look pretty good. Got a hexagon. So you can see here. There we go. So I've got loopy lines that overlap. It's a little bit messy. There's some curves. There's also sharp edges. And we want to soften all of those sharp edges out. So areas like this where things overlap.
That's a good idea, Patricia. Thank you.
There we go. Is that better?
Yes, now we're not getting a feedback.
So areas like here, right, where you can see where things kind of connect up, where it's a sharp edge, we're gonna soften those up. So you're gonna take and your pen's gonna just curve. You're gonna curve and then fill it in. It's a very meditative form of art. It's very similar to if anybody's ever done mandala work. Because you're basically in the moment.
You're doodling.
I'm doodling.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this type of art for a very long time. The softening up of hard edges, putting lines all over the place. It's only recently that this has become a thing, and it's actually used a lot in art therapy. One of the things I've been doing with it is I'll actually write out sentences and soften up those lines. You're gonna go around and fill in all of those hard edges. When you're finished, you can go in and color. I've been using photo paper that you put through a printer that gives you a nice shiny finish with markers, which has been pretty fun. So the samples I showed you earlier are that. I did a workshop with this with some Girl Guides a couple weeks ago. And a few of those young ladies and leaders were using ballpoint pens, which also gave a really interesting effect with the pen. Instead of a felt marker, the lines were a little bit more scratchy. And you can pretty much do this with anything you happen to have on home around home. You don't have to have specific materials.
With that paper, does it blend well with different pens though?
This paper is a mixed media paper. The examples that I was showing you, these ones here, I've got, this is marker, felt tip, fine tip, right here, there we go.
Pretty colors.
And then you can see here, I've used a gel pen on top of the marker, so you can layer.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how close this one is. There's some white pen on this one. And each one of these white areas has some white detailing, but I don't think it shows up very well on the screen.
No, it doesn't.
Which means you'll have to come and see them in person. So you're going to finish up, you're going to take all your lines. We're going to pretend like we're finished here. Once you've got everything kind of done, you can go in and color. So you can use colored pencils, you could use watercolor paints. These are actually ink pencils. Which is kind of like a watercolor pencil, but it's ink instead. So once it's wet and dry, it doesn't bleed again. So I've got a nice water brush here. And some of my examples I'm actually gonna be sending over to Dawn, who's in the mailbox tonight. She's doing a postcard project. And all my pieces that I've been working on are all postcard sized. So I'll be sending those over. So that's the general idea. I've got a wood panel that I'm going to make a piece of artwork from using this technique. And let's see, you can see I've got some white neurographic, and I did that on tissue paper, and I've glued that on with a painting medium. So this is basically what I started with. I took some tissue paper and did some neurographic drawing on there, and then I glued it down. So there's some white on there. Just to save some time, I've started a little bit early. And I've got some colored tissue paints that I've got, and I'm going to wet that down. And add some more medium. So essentially what I'm doing is collaging onto my wood panel. And my first layer is the neurographic. And because I'm working with tissue paper, when tissue paper is wet down and moistened with the medium, or as well as the water. I like to add a little bit of the water to help it stick down a little bit. Becomes very translucent.
Oh, cool. That's very pretty.
And the white is going to peek through. I use my fingers to press everything down. And my fingers are getting sticky. So I'm wearing an apron that I wear specifically for when I teach art. I teach art to kids through the Shadbolt Center, as well as through Plastisar in Coquitlam. And I've been doing that for about 9 years or so. Trying to think, my youngest was 2, I think, when I started. And she is now 9. So 7 or 8 years. So you can kind of see things peek through, poke through. And when they flip over the edge, I'm just going to add a little bit of glue on the corners and fold it over.
I'm surprised it doesn't rip with it being tissue paper.
I'm being very gentle. And I've also got a few creases in here. So this technique, because it is tissue paper, there is the tendency sometimes for tearing. And I have had tears, and there's also a tendency for things to kind of fold over and crease. So there's a bit of a fold here that's all flattened down now. And I'm really not too worried about this type of happy accident.
It just adds
because I kind
to
of like how those things look. So the final stage, I'm going to put this off to the side just for a minute. I have some drawings that I've done that are going to be put on top. And I'm going to give you the option of telling me which one I'm going to use. So I've got a betta fish, a humpback whale, and I think maybe this one might be a better choice. Here's the betta fish, humpback whale, and the other whale. So 1, 2, and 3. If you want to go into the chat area, you can actually let me know what you want. Oh, betta is a big hit so far. That was the one I did today.
I like the betta fish too.
Well, I've got a couple more pieces that I can do tonight. So I will be doing humpback whales for the next one, but we'll go with the crowd. Patricia, say hello to Nick and Phoebe for me. And hello using the same medium. This is drawing has been done with the ink pencils, and it's been moistened down, and then I like to add a layer of white on the back.
Is that drawn on tissue paper as well?
It is. It has a layer of acrylic paint on the back, just to make it a little bit more opaque. And I'm using the head of a rubber spatula to press things down. And if I do get a tear, we just go with it.
That's very pretty.
Here. Getting the hang of the backwards motion of the camera, getting everything lined up. And that's finished. I have a couple of extra other pieces that I've been working on that I can show you that's similar process, but not using the neurographic. So for a while I was doing lots of turtles. I was also doing some crows and mushrooms, all with the same technique, drawing and painting on top of tissue paper and collaging down. And I suppose, Diane, I could pass it off to you again. If you're there.
I am here. Now I switch on my video, right? Where am I? There. I'm trying to get it in, Tami.
Oh, there you are.
Oh, good. Good. I see some people on the invitation list.
Participants list.
Participant list, okay.
We've got quite a few people in the room.
We do, we do. So invite is what I push? I don't know. Anyway, so back to me. Let me get rid of that. Camera. Okay, I invite participants to ask questions. I don't know how to do that though.
I think if we just verbally invite them, if they want to use the chat.
Okay, and where do I? Anyway.
And if it helps you, Diane, I'll keep track of the chat.
Oh, okay, that would help me. Yes. I'm really not techie. So I guess I should talk about what's happening here.
Turn on your camera.
Turn on my camera.
Okay.
Where?
Diane, it's Ardith. I wanted to ask you if you have a favorite painting, or is it always the current one you're working on?
I have some paintings that I've redone for years and painted over. I have a favorite theme, it seems. I like watercolors, water reflections and arbutus and flowers. Yeah, my favorite painting right now, I suppose, is the mandala that I've done. We're just trying to turn on the camera.
Yeah, I noticed that one, Diane, and I saw it, and I was wondering if we could have a better
view of it.
Yeah, because it's very intriguing.
Now let's see.
There we go.
There you go. Okay, I'm watching.
Oh, okay. Yes, and I'll give you some hints. Does this show, Paul? Where is it doesn't. So I put in order to make that mandala, of course, you divide it into 4. And then for each of the 4 sections, I figured out an original pattern. So just figured out one section of the 4 and then copied it 4 times by tracing it, and also by using almost like saran wrap, a plastic wrap that I used felt pens on, and just kept keeping the image symmetrical. And I think what I have really enjoyed about mandalas is it's just relaxing, and it's you can do whatever you want. You can, but it's about balance, and it is about precision. But within that, you go with your instinct as to what feels good. And it becomes very relaxing to do a mandala. I don't know if that answered your question.
It did, Dianne. Oh, we're getting a good view of it now. That's great.
Oh, good, good. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask about it because it does seem like a departure from some of your other themes, although I do see crossover for sure.
Yes. I've lately, I am kind of eclectic because of urban sketching. I've been trying to draw people in motion, and that is really difficult. But I think I just want to try everything and figure it out. And that's kind of the fun and the beauty of any creativity. Just keep trying what you enjoy trying.
This would be for Dianne or Tami, and it's about the artist process, I guess. And do you ever create when you really don't feel like it? Or do you always feel like creating, or do you have to push yourself? I'm just curious about your motivation, perhaps your obsession, your, like, what kind of, what pushes you to create?
Well, Dianne, do you want to go first and then I'll go?
Oh, okay. There are times I come down to my art room and I think, oh, I'm going to paint that picture today. And then I start to look around, and I've sometimes come away 4 hours later and done nothing but, sort out the room. And there's a certain beauty to that too, in that then next time you come, all the time you're sorting out your room, you're figuring out now which painting is it that's really calling me. And it really is a thing of the moment, I think. I think you have to go with what inspires you, and there is times when you're just not inspired. So, maybe go out with your camera if you have that time.
I often have to create when I don't feel like it. Teaching means that I need to kind of be on even when I'm not feeling creative. So I sometimes find that that's not a bad thing, because then I end up doing things that I might not normally try. As far as being creative and the creative process, I get a lot more done in the mornings. Making art first thing in the morning is better for me. So I try to do before lunch, before breakfast even. And then the afternoons are usually when I teach.
Well, I think those are
That
both.
answer your question?
It does. I just, there's so many ways to create, and I know there are some authors that absolutely have a fairly rigid schedule. Like, they'll get up at 5 in the morning, and their time to write, whether they actually get anything produced or not, is, say, from 6 till 11, and they're very rigid about their process. And I just thought that must be really hard, because even if you're not an artist in life, sometimes you're inspired and sometimes you're not. And I'm always curious about the artist's motivation and how they get going, I guess, because sometimes starting is the hardest part.
Well, and I think sometimes not doing art and just sitting and kind of thinking, that's also part of the process too. So I read a lot. I like to sit on my back porch and listen to the birds. I think that's all part of the process. So it's not necessarily always drawing, always painting, always writing down, taking notes. I think sometimes things need to go on in your head before you can actually take them out and put them down.
That makes sense to me. Thank you. And I agree, Diane, with one of the comments about your mandala. I do see elements of all the things you like in it. So that was really interesting. And Tami, I've never seen this type of mixed media before. It's beautiful. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I've been working in this style for a little over 2 years and doing different things with it. I think if you were at the last living room art in the Heights, I had a whole series of houses up on the wall that were all similar in style. And this is just the next step.
Oh, I remember them. Those were really cute. They're the colors in them.
Now they're all hanging up in my living room.
Not all of them, because I have one or two.
I don't think the one you have hanging up in your house were ever hung up in the living room arts.
Well, I enjoy it just the same.
So for both of you, another question regarding did both of you as children, did you find this spark in you from a very early age? You may not have got around to being able to indulge it or fulfill it, but did you always know it was there?
No.
I did. My dad was an artist, and so he just taught us a lot. It was just part of what he wanted to do, and showed us how to do trees and nature, and he taught art, and it just always was a way of relaxing. I think it was just something fun to do.
Well, I think both answers give me hope that I think the yes and the no was good. So I think what that says to me, it's never too late. If you get your inspiration, you can go for it at any age.
Well,
yes.
And I like to talk about when I went to art school, I could draw stick people, and I could trace using tracing paper, and I can draw pretty well now. And teaching, that story allows me to kind of set my students up for success, because practicing is the main way that most of us learn a craft. There are those lovely people out there, and I love them. I really hate them. I love them, who are naturally talented, who can pick up a pencil without ever having a lesson and just draw what they see right away. And that's not true of every artist. And I think it's important for people to know that, because it's daunting. It's very scary to pick up a pencil and have somebody say, draw something, and there's expectation that every pencil or every drawing that you do should be perfect, and that's never the case for 99% of us.
Well, that's very encouraging. I loved horses when I was a young child, and I had a how to draw horses book, and honestly, I wouldn't consider myself overly talented, but just through sheer dint of doing it over and over again, I actually managed to perhaps not in motion, but a lot of different fixed poses. I think I finally, you know, managed to do something that pleased me. So I guess the key is just like anything, to stick at it and to practice your craft and your art.
And art isn't necessarily always supposed to be about perfection anyway. I'm doing a residency in Vancouver right now at Britannia Elementary School with the AIRS program. And the main focus of my residency with the kids that I'm working with is not about finished project. It's all about exploration and experimenting with the materials. And through that, they're able to create pieces that don't necessarily look like the kind of work that might be hanging up in the hallway, but they're doing some really deep explorations. So I think sometimes it's really important not to be worried about what you're going to have as a finished project. You can go back in and work into something you don't like later, or you can cut it up and use it somewhere else. But it's not necessary to think of something as a finished project, or that it has to be something that's going to be hung up on the wall.
I will remember that when I'm icing sugar cookies, and I'm absolutely devastated by how amateurish they look. I'll just embrace the imperfections. I had a
one of my favorite sayings is practice makes progress.
It's
That's
so
a good
true.
one.
It's been very interesting seeing two different types of artists.
Yes, I kind of wanted to be able to teach like Tami. I've never done teaching. And I even find it hard to teach my grandchildren. But the screen I'm showing you right now is about color. And my friend Sheila taught a class in starting out with primaries, just picking a red, a yellow, a blue you like, and have white and black available to set the tone of your color. And just play with that. Just play with 3 colors on your palette. And, all the different things you can do with 3 colors. You can make every other. That's what I'm trying to say. It's quite fun. And you'll get, as you paint more, you'll realize that you can pick not the basic primaries, but go slightly off the scale a bit, off the color wheel, and go on a triangle on the color wheel. I think you can see in the corner on the right, there's a color wheel. If you did a triangle within that circle, that's the 3 primaries, the 3 colors you will be working with. And it's really quite fun to experiment with.
And there's so many to choose from.
Yes, too many. And it's like a candy store, it really is.
Exactly.
Dianne, did you have does something stand out in your memory as a favorite painting experience? Let's say you were outside. Let's go en plein air kind of experience where you just kind of felt at one with your environment, and things just seemed to flow naturally.
Well, Van Dusen Garden comes to mind. I painted with a group one day. We did acrylics, and I was much younger and holding a lot of very heavy stuff and set up. But it was so fun to be on a lovely sunny day and to even be able to paint other artists' painting. and to pick out the beauty of that place. It didn't even matter really if painting turned out. It sort of turned out, but it was a wonderful experience. It's what's made me want to do more plein air painting.
Thank you, Dianne.
Mm-hmm.
Another question for you, Dianne. Above that color wheel, right high on the wall, it looks like, is that a portrait of someone?
Oh, this was my Gamma Garage friends. We challenged each other to paint each other's portraits. And I don't know if you heard me talk of my Gamma Garage friends. I belong to a group of 4 artists, and we've been together. We've done 15 shows together in Sheila, in her garage, and hence we came up with the name Gamma Garage. But anyway, one year we challenged each other to do each other's portraits. So we did, each of us did 4 portraits, or I should say 3. And this was Sheila's picture of myself. It was a collage that she did and a painting combined. So I just put it in my art room.
Portraiture seems like a very different sort of kettle of fish altogether. I think that would be very daunting.
Oh, it is, yes. I've gone with Pat, one of the Gamma Garage painters, to life drawing, and that certainly helps. And also took a class from Suzanne Northcott, who, you know, kind of made it simpler in that she pointed out tones of skin. She pointed out how to fit a figure on the paper without missing an arm or something. And just to take your time and just really have a look at what you're drawing and look at the different tones of it. That's what composition is about, is tone. So tone meaning dark, medium, and light. And so if you just went with gray tones, gray or black, gray, and white, and you can do it on your camera. You can change it, any picture, to black and white, and then you'll see those 3 tones. And that really helps because when we look at something, it actually isn't the outline as much as it is the shapes of the tones that make the composition of the picture and also make the success of the picture happen.
Thank you.
I sometimes think painting is easier than drawing for that very reason.
I don't find that. I find drawing easier. And one of the teachers I took from, Mike Svob, said there's a real difference between people who draw and there's a huge learning curve to go from drawing to painting. And he said some people never cross that line. They can't go into the painting part. And I must admit, I was one of them, or am one of them still, I feel like sometimes. In that I can see an outline and I can draw, but to then relate that tone and shape to color and to perspective, I find really difficult. Anyway, hopefully one day I'll have it all mastered.
I think you're in really good company though, Dianne.
Yes, I'm so privileged to be with the Gamma Garage. I really am. We've learned a lot from each other. And I think one of the main things that has been so good about it is we validate the time spent, because you can spend a whole day sometimes and just come away frustrated thinking, why do I even bother? That everything I tried today just looks horrible. And you still, even on those days, you're learning something. You're I don't know, somehow you crash through it finally. You might wake up the next morning and look at the same thing you thought yesterday was looking horrible and think, oh, that's not so bad. So I don't know, I can't explain quite how the process goes, but I sometimes am surprised the next day to be pleased after being so frustrated the day before.
This may seem like, sorry, a frivolous question, but when you go into an art shop, can you get lost in that art shop? And how do you, like if you go to the Sayers, or I'm looking at Tami and all her, you know, her pencils and equipment, and do you just salivate when you go into these stores? Or are you very regimented and you go in with your list and or how does that work when you go into an art shop?
I used to work at an art store.
Oh, lucky.
And I think I got my job at Opus in the inside sales department. So people would phone and make large orders. After I graduated at Emily Carr, and I learned more about art in the 3 years that I worked there than I did getting my degree. Walking into an art store is really like, it's a way to be inspired. Because you're looking at all these new materials and how you could use them.
Oh, and there's always a better thing in the candy shop.
Oh, yes. Well, these pencils, for one, I'm enamored of these pencils.
Yes. And you always think, if I only just bought that particular thing, I bet I could be so much better.
And sometimes you can.
Oh, yes, yes.
And sometimes you have to learn how to use the materials. So it's either a jumping in and becoming better right away, or you're learning a new technique.
I think it's like any artist. I mean, fabric, if you love fabric, going into a cloth shop is probably, you know, you're going to spend a lot more money than you planned on.
Oh, that's for sure. And I love cloth too. I have quite a storage of materials under the table here. It's always fascinated me. That was part of my entertainment, was going into a gallery and then going into a cloth shop. There's so much diversity. It's so fun.
And you can find inspiration just about anywhere too.
Yeah. Another thing I like to do is collaging. I'm just going to move this a bit, and I don't know if I can zero in on this, but I'll try.
I rather like your collages, Dianne.
Yes. This one, once that screen settles down, was just a bunch of magazines that somebody had rejected, and it was called Niche Magazine. And so I had a great time for about a week, just cutting stuff out and gluing it together and having fun. But it was, my collage is all about art and creativity and what Einstein had to say about it. And I don't know who else, but anyway, it was about the obsession that art can become.
That is very interesting to see, looking at all of it. You could spend quite a length of time looking and seeing so much.
Oh, somebody's coming in the door. Okay. Oh, my husband just sent me a note saying that June has a brief slideshow of Gamma Garage art. Oh, June Wen, that's what he means. And she will insert it. So go ahead, June Wen. switch to, oh, not happening?
You gotta just speak to her.
Oh, and how do I do that?
I think she can.
Oh. Gentlemen, we're ready for the slideshow.
No, just carry on.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I was thinking.
Okay. So Tami, we should switch back to you. Is that
Yeah.
okay? Okay. Sorry about that. That didn't work.
No, that's okay. Well,
I'm sure she's
prompt you when I'm finished again.
Yeah. Okay.
I've been enjoying this conversation. It's been great questions. So I'm just actually working back into the piece that we were working on before. I'm going back into my pencils and adding extra color and deepening things. Speaking of color, Diane was talking about color wheels. I've used in the background, the betta fishes stands out because the colors are more warm in the background than they are in the foreground, even though I'm using a little bit of blue here. There's more reds and purples there.
You did bring it out more.
It just needs to pop just a teeny tiny bit. And sometimes I find going in and adding darkness right next to a light area in a drawing or a painting helps with that. And sometimes in this part of the process, it's knowing when to stop and how far to keep going.
Well, I think you've succeeded.
So I'm working in, and some of the areas are still wet from when I was brushing out. And when I started, there were some areas that were still a little bit damp from the medium. And I like these pencils because they are very vibrant and you have the ability to control a little bit more like you would with a pencil. And then also have that wash look. And then once you're done, it's all permanent. So I could take a damp cloth over top of this and wipe it off, and the color's not going to lift like it would with a watercolor or a watercolor pencil. And because everything's kind of covered with the acrylic medium that I've been gluing everything down in, if I get something where I don't want it, I can wipe it away.
Is there a way we
There's a little bit of forgiveness,
so we can see
and there's a little bit of control there. So I'm going to let that sit for a while. And I had, so while Diane was talking, I had started another board. So I had my neurographic drawing underneath. with darker lines this time so you can see them a little bit better. And now I've got my pieces. So we're gonna give you the chance to vote again. So these ones are, I've got a,
Tammy,
there we go.
Tammy, is there a way to make your screen bigger? Because we can hardly see it.
Which one are you asking about, Deb?
Well, you're showing us, I can see your hands and you got something with it. But when we put the speaker view on, it only has Diane's studio coming up.
Yes.
Yours up closer. I don't know if Diane.
I don't have the
off.
ability to do that, but I could ask Diane to do it.
Would that Zoom button at the top help?
Quite possibly.
I think Diane has to take the speaker off because it's highlighting her studio.
Oh, sorry. So how do I do this, Tammy?
You just need to highlight my screen again like we did before.
Okay. Did that do it?
If we ever do this again,
Yes.
it'll run so much smoother.
We'll
Yes,
be so techy.
perfect.
There we go. So there's one whale. Kind of a lighter ghosty colored whale.
There you go.
This one's very similar. So these are actually exactly the same because when I was painting water over top of this one, I had a piece of tissue underneath. So there's a kind of a ghost image that I went right in and drew back over. And this is the original. And then there's the blue and purple.
I think the blue and purple.
Yeah.
Anybody else?
Oh, definitely the blue and purple.
Yep.
Just figure out which way we want to place that. And I think I like the neurographic sketching up on top.
That is plain glue.
This is a polymer medium, which is a type of glue. It's actually when you buy paint, it's what the pigment is suspended in.
It's the medium, correct?
It's the medium. School glue is pretty close chemically.
I like the way you handle the glue. It's very effective. Smooths it out. Is that it's just a spatula.
It's a spatula.
Oh.
I think this was a dollar store spatula.
Oh, got several of those. So now my screen suddenly switched again. And I did nothing.
A mind of its own.
It does have.
Go. Oh, I think I know what the problem is.
There, you did it.
There we go. Yes, my my phone needed to be plugged in.
Oh.
Oh.
You're just too high tech, I think.
There. So put this up closer and you can kind of see. So when I draw in with the pencils, I paint on the back with white. And the one thing I really like about doing that with tissue paper is I get these really cool little bleeds of the white that kind of pop up, and they kind of look a little bit like the barnacles on the whales.
That's a great process. That's lovely.
Well, I really like using the tissue paper with collage because you can have that layering effect and see the layers underneath, but there's some things that you don't want to lose. And with the glossy medium, it also tends to make the colors look really rich too.
It does seem to bring it out, make it more vibrant.
Mm-hmm.
And I've also done this process with wax too.
And so how are your fingers after all of this?
It's very sticky. So I have my apron on because I'm wearing it
just wipe it.
Sometimes I just like to touch everything, just to pet my whale.
Yeah.
Hit at heart.
I think my first time I got an A in painting class in my first year of art school, we had the most amazing painting instructor who was from Russia. And she was very strict and militant. And my first A in her class was finger painting.
Not surprising.
Looking back, I probably shouldn't have done finger painting with the oils, but you know, I was young.
Yes. Well, they say that cadmium paints are very toxic, and we should be wearing gloves if we touch them. But,
well, yes. Live and learn. It was only the one painting I ever did the finger painting in. And, Mom, you will remember the piece because I think Grandma had it hanging in her stairwell in her house. It looked like a stained glass painting.
Oh, yes. Yes, I do remember that. Now, what kind of paints did you say that were toxic, Diane?
Anything with cadmium in them apparently are very toxic.
Really? Anything with heavy metal.
Yeah. But I think all painters do like to touch the paint.
Well, like me, I just wear it.
Yes, I do that too. I want to come to your place and have fun.
We should set up a date.
We should.
I rather miss, I used to get together with Deborah, who's in the room here with us, and Nina and Dawn, who's in the mailbox on Friday nights to do some art together.
Oh, that would be fun.
Definitely miss that.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yes, maybe this summer will give us some reprieve, we hope.
I actually had it in my calendar for this Friday, yesterday as a junk journal night.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
Well, I think BC is being a little bit slower in letting people do things together than we are here in Alberta.
And I'm okay with that.
Yes, me too.
You know, that's not a bad thing.
No.
It's kept us safe.
Yeah, that's right.
Quite love our Dr. Henry.
Yes, isn't she something? She's wonderful.
I have a bit of a crush on Dr. Henry.
I think we all do.
I like her shoes.
Oh, yes.
Seems to be the thing.
How do you get to see her shoes? We never get to see that on the news.
There was, I think it was just one press conference where she walked out and it was full body and she was wearing the most beautiful fluvogs.
Oh, have you ever been in that store? It's just incredible.
I have about 3 pairs of fluvogs.
Oh, do you?
I have a pair of mules, a pair of lime green and purple pumps, and I had a pair of navy kitten heels, but I don't know where they are anymore.
Oh, wow.
With your girls.
With your girls, right?
Well, one of my girls will. I'm not sure about the other. Do we want to see if June Wen can put up your slideshow, Diane?
Yes, I've forgotten how we do that. Do we just
say, hey, June Wen, we're ready for that slideshow?
Yeah. I bet she's very busy. So many pretty colors.
This one would be my youngest's favorite. She loves anything rainbow.
You should tell about that brush you're using right now. I found that so handy in urban sketching.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it's a watercolor brush that you have your own water in. So you fill this area here, screw the brush top on, and it has a lid on it. So you can have a paintbrush to work outside. I think they're marketed for plein air, and they're excellent for traveling.
They sure are.
And I'll be doing some summer camps that are done remotely and through social distancing this summer. And my plan is to have some of these for my students for the painting, as opposed to bowls of water that they're going to want to change out every 20 seconds.
Exactly. They're called a koi brush, K-O-I.
And I think this one's a Holbein. Or no, this one's a Pentel.
Oh, okay.
There's koi and there's Pentel, and Holbein also makes them. And they're all pretty much the same price.
Yeah.
Did you just use watercolor pencils and then use the brush?
Yeah, or you could use pan paints.
Sorry, what paints?
Like the watercolor pans, like the children's grade that they have, or you can squeeze out paint into a container, and watercolor paint will reactivate when you get it wet.
Because it doesn't seem like you seem to go from color to color. It doesn't ruin the color, which is kind of cool.
And the brush itself is easily cleaned just by squeezing the handle. So you get rid of the color that way, which is really
We used to get these brushes when I was in art school and put black ink in them too. So you could have like a brush pen with India ink that was refillable.
Oh, I never thought of that.
I'm not sure how well it would work for painting with water afterwards, but
yeah, you'd have to designate it probably. Yeah. But they've got such a nice fine tip to them.
And they now have different sizes.
Yes.
So there's bigger brushes, medium and large, like small, medium, large.
Mm-hmm.
And I just happen to know that they're around $8 or $9 because I was pricing them up for camps.
Mm-hmm. Which is quite a bargain, really, because they last a long time.
Well, I think any brush is an investment.
Oh, that's for sure.
And they'll last. I've got brushes that I've had for 30 years.
Well, it's really important to take care of your brushes.
Mm-hmm.
Acrylics are hard on brushes. You really have to thoroughly clean.
I think the trick is to try not to get the paint up near the ferrule.
Yes, yes. And don't let it dry at all because it dries so quickly, acrylics do.
Yeah.
Well, this all makes me want to get started and try to do some art, but I'm afraid I'm the one that didn't inherit any of it as far as talent goes.
Well, I think everyone has potential. I really do. It's just a matter of wanting to and enjoying it and just let it go with the flow. There's so many directions you can go, and you can just, like I said before, just balance colors and play with that. Balance the primaries for a while and copy materials, or I just, you know, do whatever inspires you.
Looking at all the different paintings that you have, I noticed on that board that you have, Dianne, you also do, I don't know what you'd call them, close to where you did your, where was it? Where you did your face. There was also.
Yes. Okay. I'll
they look like almost like a comic characters. Did you do those as well?
No, that's my granddaughter. Oh man, she's
wow.
a talented gal. This is of
yeah, that's the one I was looking at.
Yes. This was their Christmas card. So it's my daughter and her partner and his daughter and Brika, who is my granddaughter. And
your
Brika,
granddaughter is how old?
11 years old.
Oh, she's inherited you.
Yes, and her other grandmother is very talented too. And her other grandmother's mother was an artist also. So she's, yeah, she's a lucky gal. She gets lots of inspiration and lots of encouragement.
And that's wonderful because it shows right there. She's quite talented.
Yes, yes.
I always enjoy teaching Brika.
Oh, yes, you know Brika, of course. She's probably watching and not letting on.
Well, if you're there, hello, Brika.
So I see, Julia, are you gonna welcome? I can't hear you. I guess your mic isn't on there. Julia is one of our neighbors that comes to our show.
Nice to see you guys. Tami, that was awesome seeing you working.
Well, thanks, Julia.
That was so cool. I actually, if you're going to keep going for a sec, I might go grab Catherine and bring her down. She's been so busy sketching and drawing all day. And I didn't realize we'd get to see you in action. I thought it was just going to be like panning past all your cool work, but this is really neat to watch.
It sure is.
You know, it's neat. I've used those koi brushes with some of the scrapbooking stuff I do with some of the water-based inks there, and I'd never thought of using the watercolor pencils like that. You're using with the pencils. That is so cool.
Yeah, yeah, it sure is. I'm learning a lot, Tami. I'm going to take a class from you. Oh, it's fun.
I'm working in and everything's wet, so I'm getting some tears. So I'm going to have to step back.
Are you using watercolor paper, Tami?
This is all tissue paper.
No way. Oh my God, that's so cool.
Which is why it's tearing.
Oh, yeah.
Gives it texture.
Yeah, totally.
So are you banging pots every night, Julia?
We've been doing a little bit, and but usually I have to admit we're having dinner. Somehow dinner always happens right at the 7 o'clock hour. Then we hear it start up and realize we've muffed it once again.
Yes, yes. Well, it's kind of fun.
It is.
Get to see the neighborhood.
Yeah.
It sounds like a party when it starts.
Yes.
Remember we used to do that at New Year's. I remember when I was a kid, I was out eating meat pots with wooden spoons.
Yes, I think I wrecked some pots at a friend's place that they invite us every New Year's. So the next year I had to, you know, figure out how to replace them. I think they were very ancient pots.
You know what?
Are you starting another?
Catherine.
I am. The other one was too wet. So usually I have 2 or 3 on the go at any given time, so that if I do run into a glitch like that, I can go back in and fix it. But if I keep working on it now, it's gonna go too far.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I've got more than one thing going, then I can put it aside and then come back to it.
So I can hardly wait to see the recording of the whole living room art show. There's so many rooms, so much going on that we don't know about.
Well, I'm a little bit jealous. I was really hoping to get a chance to listen to Hallelujah and some of the music.
Yes.
The dry run we did on Sunday was intriguing.
Well, you both have them ready to be recorded so that you can watch them, do you not?
Yes.
They're being recorded now. So everything's being recorded.
Yeah. Paul actually has put his phone onto the TV and he's recording it off the TV. So I will get to see this once we're finished.
Well, I'd like to thank you all very much. It's been very informative, it's been entertaining, and it's nice to meet some people.
Well, you're very welcome. So glad you attended.
Definitely want to say thank you to Junwen and Grant and Ashwini.
Yes, they're so brave to put together, in my mind anyway. To them probably it's like nothing, but just so skilled.
Well, definitely appreciative of all the time that's been put in.
Yes, that's for sure. We're so lucky to have Junwen and Ashwini and Grant in our neighborhood. I like the way that works, Tami. Like so much fun.
Well, this has been my last couple of weeks.
Oh. So what does being an artist in residence involve?
I'm essentially like the visiting art teacher at the school,
okay.
but I'm there the whole entire year.
Oh, okay.
So the program is based in the Vancouver School Board, and it takes place in schools that are low income and have no art program.
Okay.
And part of the program's mandate is to retake space back into the school as art space, a space for making art.
Yeah, it's so important.
It really is. And during the school closure and the pandemic, all the people who have been part of the residency, who are still, their residency still continued, were basically really putting together projects that can be done remotely.
Oh, yes.
Have had a huge impact on allowing the kids to still feel connected in their communities.
Oh, isn't that good?
So I, for my process with my school, I had about 7 weeks left when we went for spring break, and I can hear echoing.
Oh, maybe I should turn off my mic.
There. Just turn that off, maybe. Those gonna turn off. There we go. I did a postcard project. So I gave them all materials in a packet they came to pick up, and I've been doing video classes or demonstrations with prompts and collecting the postcards from the students on a weekly basis outside of the school. And I know some other people doing residencies where there's some dancing, there's going out into nature, there's all sorts of things going on. And I think it's a really worthwhile, important, and necessary tool for, especially during something like this that's going on right now.
It sure is important. It's so helpful to parents too that are
Well, I had a number of parents come by while I'm handing things out, and they've all said thank you. And if for no other reason that it gives their kids something to focus on.
Yes, yeah. It must be so hard for kids not to play with other kids. I can't even imagine.
It's really hard for me not to play with other kids.
Good point. Well, I think our show's just about over. We've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, I think so.
So I might just leave and go up and see what Paul has on TV as a farewell. I don't think we have any guests now, do we?
Oh, you do.
We do. Oh,
there's a couple people still here.
Oh, you're very quiet people.
They're all muted. They all muted Dianne.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You had a feeling.
Hi, Junwen.
Hi, Julia. How are you? Nice to see you. Thanks for popping in.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Cool. I'm so glad you enjoyed it. So yeah, I think you guys can wrap it up here. And if people still want to party for a little bit longer, you can go back to the living room and go back to our website and then go back to the living room, and we're having the dance party there. So Kalyan is gonna be DJing, and then we can dance a little bit. So Dianne and Tami, you're also welcome. If you are tired, you are excused.
I might have to wash my hands.
I will say that it would be fun to have all the artists joining over there as well in the living room. Okay, and this has been recorded, so I will share it with you later, so you can see also the chat and all the comments and all the praise that you got. And I hope everybody had a good time, whoever was as an audience, and also Dianne and Tami, thank you for hosting this session, and I hope you guys enjoyed it and had a good time.
Well, thank you, Junwen. It was wonderful.
Awesome. Perfect. So I'm gonna end this meeting, and then if people want to join, please join the living room. Go back to our website, our main page, and then join in the living room. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.